everyone? Welcome to another excellent edition of ARG Presents. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined as always by the man that puts the X in Vectrex, the Brent.
So you're saying I'm last?
I'm saying you're last, bro.
All right, fair enough.
So, if you joined us last week, and you may have, we spun the wheel, we made the deal, and this week we'll be taking on the most portable to portable systems, the Game Boy Mini. Whoops, sorry. The Vectrex. Oh, yes. Pet it. It loves it. Knows you love it. Brent, what do you think of the Vectrex, brother?
I think it was an expensive system when I bought it, but not as expensive as I would have thought.
Yes, yes. This good and dear man, I badmouth him, but I badmouth him out of love and disdain. But he came through for me, and was it Christmas or my birthday? You got me this.
It was a Christmas gift.
It's a beautiful console.
Several years ago.
And it not only did it come with the Vectrex, the controller, it came with an extra controller.
Yes.
And a slew of cartridges, which have kept me going over these past few years.
And zero overlays.
Yes. To this day, I own no overlays, which we'll get into why in a moment. So, what do you know about the Vectrex? I'm guessing not much, eh?
I understand its history, its place in history. I understand, what made it fail. Mm-hmm. The couple things that made it fail. But if you want to hit us with a history lesson on the Vectrex, I am ready to learn.
Class is in session,
There we go.
So, the Vectrex was manufactured by a company called General Consumer Electronics.
In the beginning, yes.
Right? And eventually, these fellows were bought out by Milton Bradley, the toy company. Yeah. Which we'll get into that in a moment. This is considered a second-generation console, and it was released in North America November '82.
Yep. And
saw a European release in May of '83 and a Japanese release in June of '83. And this was the European and Japanese releases were made possible by the fact that they were bought by Milton Bradley in the year before. This console only lasted and was discontinued in 1984.
Yeah, it was short-lived.
Which we'll get into. Now, what powered this beast, you may ask? A Motorola MC68A09 at 1.5 megahertz, which, not that interesting, but here's the interesting thing I found. I didn't know this until I was doing research for this show. The sound generator in this is the AY-3-8910, which supports 3 simultaneous channels of sound, which is great. But here's the interesting part. Same chip was used in the Intellivision and also showed up in the Atari ST.
I can believe it.
So, yeah. And this thing had really good music, didn't it?
It did. It had pretty good music for the time.
So, what set the Vectrex apart from other consoles were multiple things, not the least of which is the console and the monitor were one and the same.
Yes.
This has a 9-inch vector monitor.
Yes.
So
black and white.
Yeah, or blue, or whatever color vectors are that they have on there. When this debuted, it was actually a pretty reasonable console. In '83, it debuted at $199.
Yeah.
Which is about $500 in today's money. Man, and today, I'd say the value has held pretty close. I mean, right now I looked on eBay and you could get these consoles for about $250.
Yeah.
So, it's not bad. It hasn't lost a ton. Again, it was released in November of '82. But when Milton Bradley took it over and took it international, they dropped the price to $150. A bad sign.
Well, yeah, it is.
Then they reduced it again to $100, and right around the same time, the big video game crash of '83, these could be had for $50 new in box,
which is
$50. Ponder it, if you will. So, needless to say, the Vectrex lost Milton Bradley tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
By their own admission. At the time, however, this seemed like an exciting console. A lot of the big games in the arcade were vector-based. Can you name some of your favorite vector games right off the top of your head?
Well, you got to go Asteroids, number one.
Asteroids, of course.
You've got your, I guess, Star Wars, although that was a little down the line.
Right, and this has a clone of that. And I loved Star Castle was a great game I enjoyed. Rip Off was a great game I enjoyed. Some of the games that didn't get a release but were fun vector games were
Major
Havoc, the Red Baron.
Oh, yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites.
I know we're missing some. Battle Zone is another great one. So there were plenty of great vector games, and it made the Vectrex stand out a little bit, didn't it, in terms of
Sure.
graphics?
Oh, because I mean, no other console since then, or certainly at the time, could replicate exact vector graphics. It just can't be done.
That's right. The Vectrex comes with one built-in game, which is called Mindstorm, which is a blatant Asteroids knockoff.
Yeah.
But it's good, isn't it? It's a real good game. Fun. It plays well. The downside of Mindstorm is that it had a bug.
Yes.
Didn't it? And so, for certain players that were excellent at the game, if you got to, I can't believe it was like 13th level, it would glitch out. And
couldn't advance.
People began writing the makers about this, and they relented, and they distributed what's called Mindstorm 2 on cartridge, which was a fixed version of Mindstorm, and this is a very rare cartridge now, which I don't have.
Yeah, because the only way you could get it is if you actually mailed in and requested it. They was never sold or anything like that.
That's right. The Vectrex was one of the first units to ever have a light pen.
Yes.
And it was, which is crazy. So you could actually, there were cartridges that let you draw on the Vectrex screen.
On the screen itself, yes.
And even more astonishing, it became the first home console to offer 3D glasses, a 3D peripheral. It was called the Vectrex 3D Imagers. It had a couple games that came with it, and a lot of people think the maybe some Master System or one of these was earlier, but this actually predates the Masters by several years. So I've never had one of these things, and they cost an arm and a leg.
They're as much as the system now.
Yeah, they're really expensive.
More. Yeah.
In Japan, this outfit was named released under the name Bandai Vectrex Kosukuken. Boy, I can't even go there, can I? But it was a different name. It was under the Bandai title, which Bandai, of course, we know them from toys and games and whatnot. So, how does one come up with an idea on how to even come up with a system like this? This is a pretty oddball system. There's a little story behind it.
Yes, there is.
So, John Ross of Smith Engineering, him and a few other guys had gone to Electro Marvin, which is a supply warehouse in L.A., and they found a 1-inch cathode ray tube and thought about if they could make a portable Vectrex game, a portable Vectrex console. And so they pitched the idea, and they thought, and they were like, well, we don't want the portable, but let's go ahead and try to get a bigger one and give it a shot. And they did. And it ended up being the 9-inch Vectrex that you see today, which is kind of cool. So before Vectrex was discontinued, a sad day, they had worked on a color version.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned a couple color vector games. What were they? We had Star Wars and Major Havoc.
Star Wars.
And there were a few other ones. Tempest. We shouldn't leave that one out.
Of course.
I will say, color vector arcade monitors are expensive, difficult to repair, and blow up if you sneeze on them. So you can imagine. They actually, I heard an interview with with one of the engineers at Vectrex who said that he actually had it working. I mean, it would have happened. And he described how they did it, and I'm no engineer, but the way he described it, it was real tricky engineering to get it to work. But I mean, basically, they're sort of using the same vector state that you've got now with some different sorts of films and stuff, and they're moving the vectors at a real quick pace. It was real crazy, but it would have worked, which that would have been awesome. The Vectrex is known for having a lot of them anyway, have a very audible buzzing.
Yes.
And if you have a Vectrex, you've probably heard the buzz.
Yes.
From time to time. And what the problem was is that there's an improper production as a grounding issue, which we've seen that a million times. And so there's a way to repair it. But a lot of people consider this part of the Vectrex' charm.
Yeah.
And I would never. The thought of even opening this thing fills me with a certain degree of fright. So this thing debuted early with a computer add-on, if you can believe that. This is something I just turned up at in Chicago in '83 at an entertainment expo. They showcased a computer add-on, which was the flavor of the day. The Intellivision had a computer add-on. Even the Atari 2600 had a shipped computer add-on. They let you use BASIC and stuff on it. And so the Vectrex, and apparently it was pretty good, but they never finished it. As you can imagine.
That doesn't the Vectrex sucks at text.
Well, think about it. A lot of people use monochrome monitors, so maybe they could have some kind of gimmick. I have no idea.
No, that sounds like a horrible idea.
Does. Get this. There were a few other things in the pipe, all right? So there were a touch-sensitive screen overlay that was worked on as well. So that's kind of crazy. They released 28 official games for the Vectrex. 28, by the way, not that many.
No.
And this includes some that you would not normally be able to play without the pen or the goggles.
Right.
So really,
Three of each for those.
I think there's really only about 22 games. Some of the more notable ones that I looked to see if there's anything that looked different in Europe than it did here. Overseas in Japan, Star Trek: The Motion Picture is called in Europe. It's called Starship, and in Japan it's called Harmageddon, which is a great name. Harmageddon. I love it. That sounds like something out of last week's game. Spinball was also called Flipper Pinball, which I don't know why they would make that distinction, but they did. And the most expensive Vector cartridge available was a knockoff of a game called Clean Sweep. It was produced by Mr. Boston, which is a sort of an alcoholic beverage and mixer firm, and it was called Mr. Boston. That's what's written on it. It's written in the game, and if you get those are probably the rarest game from the Vectrex. When this was released, it got very good reviews. People really liked it, hilariously, I looked to see what the top 10 Vector games were, and they were, since there were only 22 real games, they included a lot of homebrew. And I will close this section by saying there's a ton of homebrew for the Vectrex. In the early 2000s, the entire Vectrex library was released as for free. And you can download it and play it at your leisure. And so a lot of they've even got the manuals that the programmers use to make games for it. So there are a lot of available games. Some of them are tremendous. Some of them have audio that has speech.
Yes.
They've done the stuff that's homebrewed is some of it's out of this world. Now, a lot of these guys are charging for their stuff, but they do it. They make overlays. They make everything.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a problem with that.
No, God, no.
No.
The Vectrex community is very strong. One of the strongest homebrew outfits around.
Yeah.
So I urge you, if you have a Vectrex or you're thinking about getting one, first of all, get one. Get it now. Because the
price is only going to go up.
I checked the prices on these just for fun, and in the U.S., they're going with one stick. I see them going for right around $250.
Yeah.
Now I don't remember what you paid for this with two sticks and all the cards.
Two sticks and what was it, like 6 or 7 games? No overlays was about $250 at the time.
So, and the joysticks routinely go for a lot of money. A second joystick is
a second joystick is very rare. Most people don't even offer it because a lot of people didn't have 2 sticks.
Right.
So usually the only reason why you have 2 sticks is you've bought 2 Vectrexes, one has died, and now you've got a 1 Vectrex and 2 sticks.
You'll notice this little drawer here. I'm not going to pull it out, but this is where the joystick is actually stored.
It just tucks right in there.
Folds right out, and which is very convenient. There's a handle right here on the back,
molded handle
that you can use to tote it around. Cartridge slot is right here on the side, and it's a handy little all-in-one unit, isn't it? It was great. The idea for this was basically like if you're in a house back in the day where the kid wanted to play his video game, and there was only one TV. Now you've got a TV right here, and
send Junior wherever you want.
So the Vectrex, a fascinating machine.
It is. It really is.
Really one worth collecting. There are no emulators that do it justice. You've heard this from other shows, other people, but it's true. You cannot look at the Vectrex and then look at another emulated version and get the same effect. Now, Vectors are truly a unique aspect of it.
Right. You'll never have the smoothness and the sense of scale and the sense of brightness on an emulator like you do on the actual screen. It's pretty amazing.
That's right. So, with that in mind, we were tasked to come up with 2 games from the minuscule library of 22 to talk about this week. I will say, of the 22 games, there are quite a few good ones, and not too many dogs. Brent, we'll go ahead and let you lead the charge this week.
I'm going to start out this week. I chose Hyperchase.
Hyperchase.
Yes. And the reason why I chose Hyperchase is it's a game that if you do just play Vectrex in an emulator, you cannot appreciate Hyperchase. It is one of only 2 released games. I'm not talking homebrew. Released games that use the analog stick as an analog stick, because the Vectrex does have an analog joystick. It is, and without emulating that, which I don't think any of the Vectrex emulators do emulate that. If there is one out there that does, please leave it in the comments, because I'm not aware of it.
Depends on how you're emulating. If you're running through Windows,
no, I'm talking actual analog support.
Oh well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked into Vectrex emulation that much as I have one.
But on the emulator, the game's unplayable. On the Vectrex itself, it's a very fun and very unique game. If you want to play a racing game on the Vectrex on an emulator, go to pole position. It has digital controls. It works just fine on an emulator. Hyperchase, unplayable. Some unique parts of Hyperchase, especially over pole position, which, by the way, Hyperchase, one of the original games released with the system. Mm-hmm. So, all the way back in 1982.
Right.
It does have 1 to 2 players alternating, so you can still play 2-player with 1 stick. 2 game modes on this. Game mode 1 is just get from point A to point B as fast as you can. Deaths mean nothing because you have unlimited lives. They just slow you down. Great way to actually see all the course, because if you don't play this way, you're probably not going to see all the course. Hyperchase is a hard game. It's a hard game. Mode 2 gives you a set number of lives, and you are tasked with building up a high score. You get this by either passing cars or just surviving and driving as long as you possibly can. Game controls. It has a Vectrex controller is a joystick and 4 buttons. Sort of think like a Neo Geo layout if Neo Geo had an analog stick. Some of the arcade layouts. Button 1, gas. Button 2, brake. Button 3, shift up. Button 2, shift down. Actually, that's not the right order, but those are what the buttons are. 4 gears to go through. If you're just going to try to run it as hard as possible, getting into 4th gear is not difficult. Driving in 4th gear is difficult. So some people might think, well, if I'm just going to go for a high score, I'm just going to lazily go along so I can get to the end. No. Hyperchase thought of that. And if you go too slow, you will get rammed from behind.
Mm-hmm. Never good.
And it will definitely ruin your day. Like I said before, this is one of 2 racing games on the Vectrex, the other being pole position one. This did release a few months earlier, so it is the first one. Also, only 1 of 2 games that use the analog stick. Starhawk was the other one. Mm-hmm. It's a shooting game. I love this game. I remember playing it. This was one of the games that when we first got your Vectrex fired up, and we have the cart for it, plugged this in. At first, I hated it because the controls are so touchy. Mm-hmm. But after I started getting a little farther, especially playing in Game 1 mode, where you get to see the whole map, the terrain changes. You have cliffs at times. You go through tunnels. You have lampposts that go by. And when you're driving on the road, it veers left and right in a way that I've never seen in a game before.
It's very interesting.
It's
an unusual visual. Yeah.
Yes. And I've never seen it duplicated.
It conveys motion in a very interesting way.
And speed, like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is a Spy Hunter above the car type perspective, a little behind the car. I guess. It
reminded me sort of like Turbo.
Turbo is exactly what it's like. It's exactly like Turbo. But the visuals in it are so unique. The sense of speed is so unique. I love this game. This probably isn't my favorite game on Vectrex. That's probably going to go to like... I don't know. I like Star Trek a lot, even though it's a little more complex. But for unique games done in a unique way, this has to be probably number 1 for me. What do you think about it?
Visually, it's a fascinating game.
Absolutely.
It's gutsy to take the vectors and try to generate a car game. I'm trying to think of how you had a few in the arcades. I'm trying to think of. Help me out here. Can you name any arcade racing games that were Vector?
No,
I can't either off the top of my head. I'm sure there were some, but I can't think of them. This game is very interesting. In fact, I thought about picking it myself, but the flaw in this game is that there's not a ton of unique content to go through. I mean, it's a game of its era. It's not like it's not say like an enduro or an outrun where you're gonna see 7 or 10 different stages of stuff. You're gonna see this twists and turns and but you're not gonna actually see anything scenery wise that's gonna blow your socks off. That said, the car controls pretty good. It's a difficult game. I thought it was anyway.
It is a difficult game.
It sounds okay,
I thought the motor noises are great.
Yeah,
that real gut motor noise.
I thought it sounded pretty good, but it's not one I go. It's funny. I loaded up quite a bit when I'm showing the Vectrex off.
Oh,
because it really does. And pole position is a pretty. How would you seat these between that one and pole position?
Oh, this one on top of pole position there all day.
I think pole position is more playable, but I think this is more interesting to look at.
I don't. I think pole position pulls you too far behind the car and makes seeing what's coming up a lot more difficult.
Well, I can understand that your viewpoint there, but I prefer this. I don't know. It's close. They're both similar in some ways.
Now, like you said, the major downfall behind this game, outside of its difficulty, is there is one scenario. I mean, the map changes. It gives you plenty of unique feels, but there's sections, and they're not long sections. I mean, they're 30-second sections, and I think there's like 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 5 minutes, you've seen everything that the game has if you play in Game 1 mode.
And now, to be fair, this game came out in 1982.
Yes.
Where multiple stages and enormous amounts of content in an arcade-style game were not
weren't the focus.
Weren't the thing of the day. Now, when you've got your turbos and then on down the line your outruns and whatnot, those change the game.
Sure.
But even pole position is strictly just a track-based racer.
Yes.
This probably would have done better if it had something like that, because it feels like you could complete something, which pole position gives you the benefit of, okay, I completed that race at a certain time. You don't really get that with this title. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but that isn't what drives me to play this game.
Well, what drives you to play it then?
To get to the different scenarios. I like being able to play in Game 1 and go through the game, right? Because I mean, that way you don't feel cheated. You feel like you get to do everything, but Game 2 is where the game actually is. And as you go, you can go, oh man, I almost made it to the streetlights this time, or I almost made it to the mountain wall. Yeah, and that's where I get my feeling of accomplishment.
Well, it is amazing that they can visually render the stuff in vectors, and you know what it is.
Yes, so, and I mean the stuff is going by at lightning speed. Yeah. It is crazy fast.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a beautiful game.
It is.
For a vector graphic game, it's quite nice. But it's not one I go to a ton, but it's definitely a show-off piece. It's like Shadow of the Beast for the Amiga. You don't really play it. You just throw it in there and show it off.
I like to play it. On eBay, loose carts of this thing can be had for $6 or $7,
mm-hmm.
$8 with a box, original inserts, the whole 9 yards. Still less than 20.
Really?
Yeah.
I will say we should mention this as we go through the overlays for these games can be more expensive than the games sometimes, which is quite amazing. And like I said, I don't have any overlays. I'd like to have some, but I just haven't gotten around to getting any.
And some overlays are way more important to the game than others. For Hyperchase, overlay adds almost nothing to the game. It just changes
a little color.
It changes the white to a different color. Yeah. That's right. So you looked at...
I took a look at the arcade classic Berzerk. A early arcade staple, back in the day. So to fully appreciate the Vectrex attempt at Berzerk, I thought we'd look at the actual arcade game to get some basis. The original arcade game was developed by Stern Electronics. And official ports, I was surprised. This only had a few official ports, all right? The Atari 2600 got a port, all right?
Okay. And it wasn't horrible.
The Atari 5200 got a port, and the Vectrex got a port.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
I was surprised. Now, the ColecoVision had a port in production, but ended up getting a port of Frenzy. Now, Frenzy was the sequel to Berserk, and literally in the arcade it was a one-chip swap. Yeah. You had chopped one chip and added some stuff and changed a few things, colors and whatnot. So in the arcade, this was released November 12th of 1980. So way, way back. And it was 2 players, but not at the same time. And they had a cocktail and a standard version. So flash forward, if you will, to today. When you have computers that do everything you want, you watch movies on them, you play games that do everything. In 1980, it wasn't that way.
No.
And so Berzerk came along and sort of changed some things about arcade games. Firstly, originally Berzerk was intended, and if you haven't seen Berzerk, it's very simple to explain. The screen comes up with a maze, a very simple maze.
Yes.
And by maze, I mean just like a series of walls and stuff and some doors.
5 or 6 walls.
And some robots and your guy. And your goal is to shoot the robots and get out of the room, or just get out of the room, or shoot some robots and get out of the room before a happy face bounces in and kills you. The happy face named Evil Otto, which I'll get to him in a moment. So one of the things this game did that no game really had done before it, and there's a gray area there, but I couldn't find any mention of this anywhere if this was 100% true, but it's widely considered the first game to have digitized speech in the game. 1980. Now, to put it in perspective, I mean, computers that were so far back that you would never have guessed. I mean, this is an arcade game. Of course, arcade had specialized boards and whatnot.
Sure.
To put it in perspective, what they paid from everything I read and the research I did for each word in the game, and it looks like there's about 16 words. There are multiple phrases, but about 16 words. Each word to put in that game cost $1,000 a word.
Wow.
That's how expensive that was to put together. So when this thing came out and talked, brother, you knew it and you were stunned. It said the classic stuff like kill the humanoid, stop the humanoid, kill the intruder, intruder alert,
intruder, yeah.
The coin detected in pocket, in the when you'd walk by it and it was in demo mode, which is always great. A bunch of other stuff. So, as I mentioned, there's a happy face that bounces out named Evil Otto. There's a story behind it. I don't know if you ever heard this. It was named after Dave Otto. He was the security chief at Dave Nutting Associates. And he would chew you out for taking too long on lunches and stuff. He was always watching and he was always smiling as he did it. And so they immortalized this man by making him Evil Otto, which I think that's great. Another thing that this game did was originally they had planned to release this game in black and white. In fact, I played a black and white Berzerk back in the day because they released some in black and white, not that many. That's how old I am. Then they realized color is the way to go, and so they went with a monitor, which is good because they redid some of the game and they made different colored robots do different things, and so color ended up being pretty important to the game. And one last little item about the original, which I thought was amusing. Again, this is a different era. To test market this game, they stuck it in a Chicago singles bar, which I think that's great. So Berzerk was very popular in the arcade, and of course, it also spawned the sequel, which was Frenzy in '82, which is pretty much more of the same.
Right. Very much more of the same.
One last little, I saw this in the wiki. Berzerk is the first video game known to have coincided with the death of a player.
Oh, for a high score time.
In October 1982, Peter Berkowitsky entered Friar Tuck's game room in Calumet City, Illinois, and he made the top 10 list twice while he was there. In about 15 minutes, he collapsed from a heart attack and died. So,
tragic.
Yeah, it's tragic, but there you go. So Berzerk, killer game. So, clearly a game like this had to be ported. Again, it got a good 2600 release. It got a very good 5200 release if you can find a stick to play it. And of course, here it comes to the Vectrex.
Yes.
So what's changed? Well, things. Again, this is still a 1 to 2 player hot seat experience. Both use the same stick. This is pretty common on the Vectrex.
Yes.
Button 4 is the fire button, which that's also fairly common. And if you look at the overlay for Berzerk, and much like a lot of the overlays, it doesn't really do much. It does give your Vectrex an arcade flair to it, though.
Yeah, it's like deluxe.
But at the bottom, it'll tell you what the buttons are,
yeah.
which is nice. Something I looked up that I thought was interesting. In the back of the manual for this, they talk about the replacement overlays, and they've got a list of the overlays. The overlay for Berzerk was HO-4020. You can order these overlay replacements for $2.
Wow.
I wish I'd ordered about 1 million of those.
Yeah, I wonder if that deal's still good.
So, in the Vectrex version of the game, of course, the Vectrex version's not in color. And so, instantly, there's a big difference. In the arcade game, different colored robots would be smarter and be more deadly. Right. Yeah. In the Vectrex version, you get 3 humanoids to start. You're a humanoid. And after you get a bonus humanoid after 5,000 points, not bad, there can be 1 to 11 robots in each maze, which that's a considerable amount of robots.
It's a lot of things to keep a track of for the old Vectrex.
Yeah, the Vectrex robots look weird. I will say that a lot of people think they look like octopuses. I don't think they look that bad. I think the humanoid looks pretty good, right? The Evil Otto looks about the same. He bounces through, you know. There are no digitized voices in this, but I'll come to something that may interest you in a moment about that. One thing about Evil Otto I should mention is he bounces through. He cannot be killed.
No.
And this was put into the game, so once you killed all the robots, you didn't just stand on the level milling around. You know? There's an excellent documentary on the arcade version of Berzerk and the world champion and a guy going for the high score. And there's a pattern in the arcade version, and you know where the exits go. I mean, it's literally a big pattern.
Yeah.
I could not, and I don't know enough about Berzerk to know. I could not tell you if the Vectrex version does that or not. It may not. I could not sense a distinct pattern. And I tried to play it a few times to try to write down where stuff was, and my memory's goo. I was like, that isn't going to happen. So that's something. There's not that much on this game. I was kind of surprised to see so little. The game is compared to the arcade, it's a slower affair.
Yeah, much slower.
I would say it. I won't say it drags, but it's drag-ish.
Yeah.
The robots are every bit as stupid as they are on the arcade versions. They'll shoot each other. They'll run into walls. The walls are deadly in this game, by the way. They will do all kinds of stupid stuff, but sometimes they just come at you. I read the instruction book, and I could not see where they differentiated between robots in terms of what they were capable of. So I don't know if there's a certain level where they get smarter, they just add more. I don't know. And I wasn't good enough to get super far into it.
They definitely seem to get more aggressive the longer you played.
Yeah. I couldn't find any. You know, one thing I looked a lot was to try to find who programmed these. I looked at Your Game Anime, and I could not. Their GCE put them out. They produced them and developed them, the ports of them, but I could not find anyone linked to these games.
Well, mine was Chris King and Jeff Corsilia.
Okay, well, good. Oh, good. Wow, so they're actually Americans that did it. I was wondering. There were no sales figures. I have no idea how many cartridges were sold. So that's also up in the air as to how many of these things actually got made. There aren't definitive numbers on how many Vectrexes were sold either. So this is the early 80s. The numbers get a little scanty, as they say. Now, I mentioned that this game had no voices. There is a homebrew version of this game, and it's called, it's really got a goofy name. Here, let me find the name of here. It is called Berzerk. All right, Berzerk. And these guys have incorporated speech into the game if you have the right cartridge stuck in there.
Really?
Yeah, which I do have, and it will actually talk, and it sounds cool. It does a good job. It's not just like a robot. Another homebrew version of Berzerk was put out because people found out, and this is a pretty common, commonly known problem, that Berzerk had a bug. and at certain points, your score would go bananas, and you would get tons and tons of points for no reason. And it screwed up things. It really made it tough to submit scores. I was reading on Twin Galaxies where they had disclaimers about the scores. I guess people had this happen, been like, whoa, sent them in, which I think that's funny. So that version of that, so they put out a repaired version called Berzerk Debugged. So that's another homebrew you can look into. I looked at some reviews of this game, which I found one. The video game critic. He said it was slow, and the robots were ugly. They seem uninterested in killing your character, and he also mentioned the bug. His final score on this game, a D-.
That seems a little hard.
So he killed this game. The property Berzerk was a pretty popular property overall.
Sure, because it was very popular in the arcade.
And I happen to own this, and so I'm going to just break it out to show it. And what just surprised me, but the ports. But this is the Berzerk board game that I have. I got this thing when I was. Can you help me out there? Thank you. I got this from a resale store a few years ago. This is one of the many arcade games that were turned into board games over the years. I don't think I've ever played it.
Most of them are really bad.
Yeah. That looks just about right, though. Mazes, robots, humanoid. I think they got it all covered. So, and I would wager it would play not much better than the Vectrex version of Berzerk overall. So, I looked this up on eBay to see what kind of action it was getting. The Berzerk sealed or complete in box, $30. Not bad, complete. The card only $12. So despite how we're talking about how expensive this stuff is, you can get the cartridges.
Oh, the games are a dime
for a decent amount of money.
Just to throw, just to throw my 2 cents on this, I hate Berzerk. I hate it on the Vectrex. I hate it in the arcade.
Really?
I hate everything about it.
I always thought Berzerk was interesting because it gave you that feeling that you were in an unlimited space, and you could walk around. It also didn't tell you which door you had to leave by, so you could just go wherever you want. Did you play this game version?
I did. Oh, yeah.
And what'd you think?
No, I didn't play it much. I played my game way more. Berzerk as a concept bores me. Well, you just go in, you clear out the robots, you have no end goal. There is no end to Berzerk.
Yeah, you have to survive.
It's a play forever game.
Yeah. Gotta make that money, honey.
Just, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the Vectrex version does suffer from slow gameplay. It's unlike my game where at least you can say, oh man, it's attractive. This game is not attractive on the Vectrex.
I like Berzerk on the Vectrex, and I'll tell you why. It's a vector version of the arcade game. I think it's unique. I think they did a pretty good job rendering it. And despite the fact it's a little slower, it still maintains what made the arcade version fun. It's still fun to romp around and kill the robots, and it's a great. I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, is it the best game I've ever played? No, but I think it's a competent version of Berzerk.
It doesn't use the vector graphics to do anything.
Well, it's Berzerk, man.
But my question is why? Why even put it on the Vectrex?
Because it's an arcade classic. Enough of this banter. It's time.
At the wheel time?
It's wheel
already?
time.
Oh,
hit my
boy.
music, and you lift that up without killing us. Oh, no. Oh, my God, no. Oh, not good. Hold on. Let me get this out from under here. This is why we don't let you lift things. There we go. All right.
Portable system, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, how much you figure that thing weighs, Brent?
Oh, that's probably 15 pounds.
So you're right. All right.
I demand spinning action this week.
Now tell the fine folks what you struggle so mightily with that. What are we going to do?
If you look up here at the top, have added in a commenter's choice. If that would happen to come up, we will take suggestions from the comments below and play whatever system gets the most thumbs up. But it has to land on that first, so,
That's right.
All right, there we go.
So, basically, it's chat choice in commenter form. Go for it, Brent.
I'm going to say right now.
Yeah. You going to take a pic? Okay, go ahead.
I need me some DOS action.
Okay, let's see you do it. I think it's time for Super Nintendo. It's been on there for a while. All right. Survey says.
Oh, okay.
What do we get?
That appears to be the Vic 20.
The Vic 20. That one's been on there for a long, long time. Yep, it's the Vic 20, folks. Now, for all you Commodore fans out there, you'll recall that the Vic 20 is the predecessor to the C64. Now, yes. I used to own a Vic 20. I never plugged it in or I played it, and I sold it. Whoops. But I think I still have a cartridge for it in there, so I'll dig it up.
I have. Well, we'll talk about it next week. I guess people are going to have to just come back to see how we feel about it.
Absolutely. Before we go, we should probably put out some plugs. What do you got to plug this week, Brent? You got anything?
Let's say the Amigathon hourly adventure episodes are going up.
Yep. Episode 3 is up now, and episode 4 should be up very soon, probably before you see this video.
If for a little extra added content, there's some ramblings, maybe 5 minutes before each episode begins, so go check that out.
Yep.
Also, if you miss donating on the day of the event, don't worry. You can still donate to a wonderful cause. Just go to Amigathon.com. Donate whatever you can. Help the kids out.
Children's Miracle Network. Also want to mention that relatively soon, we should have some swag in the T-shirt shop. I've been working with the boat, and we're going to put out some new ARG stuff. And Boat has put out some very interesting stuff in the T-shirt shop, so we'll link that below. And I think that'll do it, man.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go one more shout out.
Oh, go ahead.
To the Patreon people, if you have a few more extra dollars after donating to the kids, you can always donate to the Patreon. Keeps us running. Amiga Studio East has a few challenges to overcome, but we're getting there. Hey, you can't replace me.
How much to hire a new guy? Quick, send it in.
But I think that's going to do it for this week.
All right, man. So next week, Vic 20, and until then,
have a goodie.